Good day, everyone. I am Bless Los Baños Camilosa from BSF 2B, and today I will discuss to you about the care and maintenance in the nursery. As we all know, nursery is very important in producing and nurturing saplings or young trees for them to grow well and healthy. Also, they ensure protection and sustain reforestation because nursery is the source of the planting materials used in reforestation. The following are the care and maintenance in the nursery. The first one is fencing. A fence should be built around the nursery to protect the planting stock from destructive agencies. The nature of possible danger determines the kind of fence. Fence should be built in a nursery because it safeguards the saplings to protect them from dangerous animals. The picture shows an example of hagwire. Next is the preparation of soil. If the area selected is covered with second growth vegetation, the usual procedure would be to cut all trees, remove the roots, stones, and fallen logs if any. This is followed by the loosening of the soil, breaking lumps of earth, and then raking it to even off the surface. We should prepare the soil for us to ensure the growth of these saplings to be well and healthy. So we should filter it out from unnecessary stuffs that is unfavorable for the saplings. Construction of beds. The seed beds and transplant beds should be constructed on the best portion of the nursery as regards soil, exposure, and accessibility. Before the beds are prepared, the soil should be plowed and the surface leveled. Construction of beds is very important in a nursery because it is where we plant our seedlings. Sowing is a very important part in a nursery because it is when you plant your seeds, and the most ideal time would be at the beginning of the rainy season. Because usually seeds are immediately sown after collection, because long stored seeds in ordinary room temperature lose their viability. The length of time the seed germinate and develop into seedlings ready for transplanting should also be considered. There are two principal methods of sowing seeds in nurseries. It is by broadcast and in drills. Broadcast is when you plant your seeds by scattering, and drills is a systemized planting which you plant your seeds evenly. Next is watering. You should water the saplings for them to not wither and dry, especially in the long dry season, which is Philippines, that require much water. Next is the shading. Shading is essential because it protects the saplings from the heat. Shading during the dry season of climate type 1 in the Philippines is necessary in nursery management. There are two ways of shading, the natural and the artificial. Mulching. Mulching consists placing chopped cogon grass, rice straw, or leaves on nursery beds. This is especially useful if water supply is lacking or watering is difficult, particularly in areas with long dry seasons. In wet localities, however, mulching may reduce aeration, favors damping off, and soil compaction. Have you observed in a vermi house that the soil is moist? That is called mulching, which you put cogon grass, rice straw, or any leaves. You don't need too much water for that. Weeding. From the nursery's viewpoint, weed is a plant that is out of place. So weeding is necessary in nursery operations. Important measure in reducing the cost of weeding is to avoid the use of soil or animal manure containing viable weed seeds. Hand tools like trowel, sharp piece of iron, and hoe eases weeding. Weeding should be started as early as the leaves of the favored plants can be definitely identified. Weeds are unnecessary plants that is harmful to saplings because they compete with the flow of nutrients. Hence, they should be removed. As you can see in the picture, the two people are cleaning the nursery, which involves the removing of weeds. Root pruning. This is a method of cutting the lower part of the root system, particularly the top root, while still in seed beds. The principal objective is to induce the formation of finely branched lateral roots, short taproot, and stocky crown. For this purpose, the most practical method is to use sharp-bladed tools like spade and others. You should prune the root of a sapling to minimize the damage of its root system and to lessen its mortality rate. Next is the pricking out or pricking off. To a gardener's term, this method is applied to transplanting of overcrowded seedlings in seed flats. Pricking out or pricking off is very essential because it prevents overcrowding. Hence, the saplings need some space for them to grow properly and well. Dumping off. Dumping off is a disease of plants caused by fungi which eventually cause wilting. As you can see in the picture, the plant is decaying or it is wilting. That is dumping off. It is a disease of plants that is caused by fungi.
Transplanting in nursery. What is transplanting in nursery? In agriculture and gardening, transplanting or replanting is a technique of moving a plant from one location to another. In the horticulture of some ornamental plants, transplants are used infrequently and carefully because they carry with them a significant risk of killing the plant. Another way of establishment is not by sowing seeds but by transplanting seedlings that are grown in nurseries first. Transplanting requires less seeds but much more labor, and the crop takes longer to mature because of the transplanting shocks. What are the two methods of transplanting? Therefore, the two methods of planting can also be described as direct planting and indirect planting. For transplanting is indirect because the seeds are not immediately sown on the field. Kanang diretso ra ni tanom, tapos ang indirect planting kanang magpukas sa kag similya patubuon sa nimo tas ibalhin na pod nimo tanom. General steps for transplanting. Remove the plant from its spot. Inspect the roots. If roots completely cover the soil, place them gently apart. Place the plant in a prepared hole. Firm the soil around the plant with your hands and water well. Spade or shovel. If there's one tool that you need for transplanting trees, it's a spade or a digging shovel. After all, it's hard to get trees out of the ground without shovel. Empty containers. While not exactly a tool, you'll want to have few empty containers on hand to place the trees in once you dig them out of the ground. This can be plastic gardening pots or something even simpler like a large cardboard box. Yard cart. For carrying supplies to the digging site and then carrying the trees to their new homes, a yard cart is an invaluable tool for any tree transplanting project. Water jugs. Once your trees have been planted, it's important to provide them with plenty of water to help them survive the shock of transition. With the right tools, transplanting trees can be a fun and productive project that will have an impact for decades to come.
Nursery. Nursery is an area in which saplings are raised and nourished until they're ready for transplanting at permanent place in field. The importance of nursery. Possible to grow and maintain in large number of an area. Raised effectively due to better care. Uniform crop growth and easy management insect or pest. Selection of nursery site. Things that must consider in selecting a nursery site. First, location. The location must be located in pollution-free environment. Topography of land. The topography of land of the nursery site must be even or level. Soil. The soil must be loam or sandy loam with a large quantity of organic matter. Water. The quality of water used in nursery is important for the plants to grow. Drainage. The nursery site must have drainage facility and be free from waterlogging. Transportation. The nursery site must be accessible by road. Labor. As nursery work is labor intensive, the nursery site must have enough number of laborers. And protection on farm animals. The nursery must be protected by enclosures so as to prevent damage to the plants by stray animals. And the last is the market needs and size. Market plays an important role in the success of nursery business. Various types of inputs like seeds, fertilizers, pesticide, fungicide, plant growth regulation, agricultural implements, and different type of spare parts and other miscellaneous items required in a nursery must be available nearby in the market. What is nursery bed? It is refers to a land which is made free from weeds, stumps, stones, and pebbles. It is used for sowing of seeds to raise seedlings and multiplication of different species of plants through asexual means. The three different ways of nurturing bed. First, sunken bed. The soil need to sterilize by soil sterilization or chemical to avoid contamination by pests or diseases. The soil must truly mix with rotten farmyard manure. It prepared in the dry and windy area, and it has 10 to 15 centimeter below the ground level and a decomposition of water of rain water from a long time. Second, level bed. The soil need to sterilize by soil solarization to avoid contamination from pests or diseases. The farmyard manure and fertilizer is mixed. The whole area is divided into equal size of small bed, and it has 1 meter wide and has length of according to the slope of the field. And the last is the irrigation channel are prepared between the rows of the bed and drainage channels for excessive irrigation on heavy rain. Third, raised bed. It is prepared for rainy season. The land level and made free for weeds, stumps, stones, and pebbles. The soil is truly mixed with 5 to 10 kilograms swim rotten farmyard manure. The prepared it has 15 centimeter higher from the ground level, and space of 3 to 4 centimeter is left between two body in order to carry out the natural practice smoothly. The types of nursery. First, temporary nursery. Temporary nursery or subsidiary nursery is a small size and set up for a short period of time. It is mostly used for vegetable and flower cups like we found nearly in our planting area. The advantages of temporary nursery. First, the mortality or injury shock due to transportation is negligible due to less distance. Second, less cost compared to permanent one. The disadvantages of temporary nursery. First, because of its temporary nature, basic facilities like irrigation may not be adequate. Therefore, special arrangement needs to be made in order to keep the plants and seedlings healthy condition. The second one is the permanent nursery. The plants are nourished and kept for a longer period of time till they are sold out. Planted permanently in a field, the area is covered under such a nursery is larger than a temporary nursery, and it has features that are required in a permanent. The advantages of permanent nursery. First, greater range of planting stocks. Being permanent of nature of it perpetual source for the supply planting material for many years. Third, the supervision and management is better due to permanent staff. And the last is the initial production cost is reasonable for profits go up in long run. The disadvantages of permanent nursery. First, the initial invest cost is high. The transportation cost is more, intensive labor management, and it required skilled human resource around the year.
Preparation of compost. The word compost comes from the Latin words compostum, that means to bring together. Compost is one of the major organic manures derived from decomposed plant residues, usually made by fermenting waste plant materials, heaped or put in a pit, usually in alternate layers with a view to bring the plant's nutrients in a more readily available form. Types of composting. Aerobic composting is the composition of organic matters using microorganisms that requires oxygen. The most microbes responsible for decomposting are naturally occurring enzymes in the moisture surrounding organic matter. Ang aerobic dako ang tabang sa hangin para breakdown ng materials ug paspas. Din dapat bantayan jud nimo siya every few days. Anaerobic composting is the method composting without introducing oxygen, which means to break down the organic materials takes much longer and produce little heat. Tapos ang anaerobic, pwede rin mo siya pasagdan. Pero expect na dali mo siya ang baho ay tungod kay na presence of oxygen man siya. Vermin composting is the process by which worms are used to convert organic materials, usually based into a humus-like materials known as vermin compost. Nya ang vermin composting, but nga siya og wati ang mga compost. Ang wati, oxygen ug hangin, moisture ang gamit para breakdown ang mga materials sa compost. These three types of composting helps microorganisms speed up the process of decay.
What to compost? Composting is a great way to use the things in your refrigerator that are a little past their prime, which helps reduce food waste. You can also compost certain kinds of yard waste rather than send them to the dump. Collect these materials to start off your compost pile right. Instead of throwing those organic waste materials, there is a better way to use it again through composting, because that waste materials contains a nutrients that is necessary for the plant growth. These are the ways that can be composted. First is the food scraps, vegetable scraps, eggshells, though they can take a while to break down. Next is the grass and plant clippings, dry leaves, finely chopped wood, and bark chips, sawdust from untreated wood. So, these are the organic materials or waste that can be composted.
Steps in composting. First, choose your type of backyard compost bin. You can use either an open pile or a compost bin. Bins have the advantage of being net, keeping animals out and preserving heat. You can build your own compost bin, and the size and type of bin you build will depend on how much compostable material you generate. Second, choose your composter location. So by choosing the location for your compost bin, it should be flat, well drained, and sunny. And the most important thing is you should find a convenient location for your compost bin. Third is alternate layers. Start with a layer of coarse materials like twigs to allow for drainage and aeration. Cover this layer with leaves. Then simply alternate between layers of green materials or nitrogen-rich material and browns, carbon. I like browns, carbon or rich material. So these green materials are green leaves, garden waste, flowers, vegetables, fruit peels, scraps, coffee grounds, tea leaves or bags, and eggshells. These brown materials are evergreen needles, dried leaves, paper egg cartons, paper towels or napkins, dried grass clippings, shredded newsprint, bark, coffee filters, straw, sawdust, dryer vacuum lint, and cardboard or cut into small pieces. So number 4, add kitchen to add layers until your bin is full. Collect your kitchen compostables in a container in your kitchen. Find a handy place to store this container on the counter under the sink or in the freezer. When it's full, empty its contents into the compost bin. Whenever you add food scraps or yard waste, be sure to top it with a layer of browns. If you do not add browns, your compost will be wet and break down more slowly. If possible, collect and store dry leaves in an old garbage in the fall so you can use them in your compost year-round. Depending on the type of compost bin or pile you have chosen, there may be specific ways of adding and maintaining compost. So number 5, continue to add layers until your bin is full. The bin contents or pile will shrink as it begins to decompose. 6. Maintain your compost bin. To get finished compost more quickly, check your compost bin and make sure the following conditions are met. When you add fresh material, be sure to mix it in with the lower layers. Materials should be as wet as a wrung-out sponge. Add dry materials or water, whichever is needed to reach this moisture level. Mix or turn the compost once a week to help the breakdown process and eliminate odor. 7. Harvest your compost. You should be able to have finished compost within 4 to 6 months of starting your bin. The finished compost will end up at the top of the bin or compost pile. Remove all the finished compost from the bin, leaving unfinished materials in the bin. Continue decomposing. Be sure the decomposition process is complete before you use your compost. Otherwise, microbes in the compost could take nitrogen from the soil and harm plant growth. As you can see in the picture, that is the result by composting, where the materials must be in the process to compost. You must put the waste plants, materials, or any product of fertilization through alternate the layers. Compost is ready for or finish when it feels and smells like rich. In other words, it should be dark brown like what you see in the picture that being attached. So, through of composting, we can contribute a good environment where it can produce a good life of the plant. So that would be all, and thank you for listening to our report. God bless us all.